So those stilts are indeed both laws and money, because it's the same thing. It's the forced undergirding of the structure to the detriment of its own change. That's really what it is. And people keep thinking it's money that causes innovation. No, it isn't.
No.
the statistical analysis of innovation is basically a straightforward doubling of everything, doubling of speed, doubling of cheapness, that's because of technology, the doubling of the power of anything that handsets are getting smaller by half every year. We had back in 2005, I think it was, a server for the internet that was the size of a match head. Right, so that's getting infinitely smaller.
Wow.
That happens in all countries to the same degree. Now, some of them are behind, some of them are ahead, but they're all on that exponential curve. Doesn't matter what their social system, doesn't matter how much debt they have, doesn't matter how many corporations they have, blah, blah, blah. This thing operates separately on its own logic from the monetary system.
Yeah, and
just imagine what it would be like if we didn't have that limitation, and it would be more than exponential.
Oh, yeah,
it would just be shooting into the sky, that line. It wouldn't even be exponential,
Yeah, it would just be unbelievable.
Yeah.
What other mechanisms of the monetary system would you say hold us back?
Well, if we're talking just about resource use, money does encourage a lot of waste. Because if you just think about it like this, people say, the tablet market's going to be worth, 8 billion next year or whatever, some ridiculous number. It's not that much. But of course, what does that actually mean? That means that we've got multiple companies producing tablet after tablet after tablet that either gets bought or they break down and have to be bought again. And in fact, they have to break down because Apple has to make money every year. That's one of the reasons why we're onto our 5th iPhone this year and why there is already an iPad 3 in the works. And, now we've got Amazon's going to bring out a tablet towards the end of the year as well. I reckon that might be quite good, that one. But nevertheless, in Samsung and the Playbook, there's so many of these things. And the reason being, of course, you have to survive on 2 mechanisms. One is you have to make money at all. And if something's being successful, like a tablet, you're going to copy it. It's a quicker route. It's a shortcut to some kind of profit. And of course, you need to undercut them. Now, with Apple's competitors, they're sort of lucky in the sense that Apple overprice everything phenomenally. But of course, that means they can still overprice, but just slightly lower. Or they price the same or, a little bit lower and have to also save money making it. So they're now making it out of inferior materials that were mined actually in inferior ways because of the need for the Billitons of this world to actually mine in a most efficient manner, efficient being economically efficient. So we have all of these issues as well. We're burning through the resources. We're dumping in the ocean because it's cheaper than treating the chemicals or whatever better, which then feeds into your profit mechanism. So the more profit you're making, pretty much by definition, the worse you're being for A, the culture, because you're scamming people, essentially scalping them for a lot of money. B, cutting probably a huge amount of costs, and you have a big environmental footprint when you operate anyway. And then, of course, C, in terms of pollution as well, pollution from either the byproducts of the endeavour, or the fact that you've got a bunch of rotting materials that have either been wasted during that inefficient process, or indeed the end products you've made, which have become waste in usually 6 weeks in America. Almost everything is waste. 99% of materials used to create goods in America are waste within 6 weeks.
I kind of went through that whole process when I was moving. I even threw out to the recycling, obviously, all the CD dual cases for my CDs.
Oh, I've done. Yeah, that's a good one to do, man. Very
because I just thought to myself, I went through my whole CD collection. I had like 90 different albums, and I'm thinking to myself, what is the point of dual cases? I mean, for one thing, they're not needed for the track listing because you can get that for free online. They don't have any use for the lyrics because you can get those for free online. They're not any use for the images that they have on there because you can get those for free online. So really, it's just a waste of plastic. And even because my brother got me for the last Christmas presents I ever accepted, because, I don't do Christmas anymore, but one of the last things my brother bought me was a CD wallet that contained like spaces for 80 CDs. So I just threw out all my CD dual cases and put them in there. And
That's right.
even some of the albums, I'm thinking, will I ever listen to that ever again?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
it really rammed home the truth of what you said in your presentation, the innovation war, about the criminalisation of MP3 downloads.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was just thinking, what a waste of plastic this all is.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, when you were talking about the Apple products, it reminded me of an article I read of a Chinese boy who actually sold one of his kidneys online so he could buy the iPad 2.
Oh my God, is that really true?
Well, I don't know if it's true.
Tom is nodding at me. I've heard of stories like that before as well. And of course, on the other side, you hear people playing themselves to death on World of Warcraft, where they're so locked in. Well, one guy, didn't he rob his parents? No, he killed his parents because they stopped paying his World of Warcraft. Yeah. They took him offline. He killed them.
God.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You see, it's so obsessive that you do that. You will sell your kidney. You will compromise your body, essentially, or someone else's.
Yeah.
To maintain a product which is entirely superficial to your existence in terms of just the nuts and bolts of your existence. I'm not saying people shouldn't enjoy things, but you're obviously at that point not enjoying it if you're cutting out your vital organs, right? It's just, you should probably get that seen to, right? But, but enough exposure and enough hype about it gets people locked into that. We are programmed to be consumers in a literally life and death way.
Yeah, I mean, and because that's the thing. I mean, apparently in China, if you own an Apple product, it's seen as a sort of badge of honor. Because apparently he was like 17 apparently, without his parents' knowledge. He was contacted online by a broker, who basically offered him, I think it was something like 20,000 yen or something, so he could actually go and buy it. He went to this hospital, got the surgery done, bought the iPad. Then when he got home, his parents found out about it. Apparently the broker cannot be found now, and the hospital actually denies the whole surgery as well, and says...
yeah, you would, wouldn't you? You would.
Yeah, and this kid is actually saying my health is now declining now. So he regrets the decision. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell?
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, sitting around all day playing his iPad with only one kidney, isn't he? Man, yeah. But it runs deep, man. It runs deep. And when you analyse some of the stories you hear, like, for example, there's a fascinating disorder. It's not fascinating, it's awful, called narcissistic personality disorder.
Oh, yeah, I dare say my ex suffered from that.
Well, I'll describe it, and then you can compare it. But it's essentially people believe they're incredibly famous. They believe that they matter hugely, right? And one kid in America just one day decided to believe he really was a world-class tennis star. Yeah. Like that he just was one, even though he just wasn't, right? He's just an ordinary dude who probably not played all that much tennis, right? And so what he did was he nicked his parents' credit card and he flew to London and organised a press conference, paid all with their credit card, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. And, he was there, and I've never found the press conference, but I really want to. It's one of those stories you really want to verify. And
I'm going to see if I can find that as well.
So horribly, though, because he went back home, and when his parents found out, he killed them. Just snapped, couldn't take the truth. And it just reminds you, I mean, in that sense, obviously there's something going on bio-psychosocially there. It's a little bit, it's not just people being crazy for no reason. And there's probably something wrong in his brain, right? But it's very interesting that the negative outcome was this desire for fame, this desire for material wealth and being famous and being known. It's essentially that approval of society. And of course, the approval of society at the moment is what the zeitgeist is, isn't it? It's what is acceptable to be. Is it acceptable to be a famous star? Yes, it is, because I'll have lots of money and people will listen to me. Or is it acceptable for me to be my ordinary self, which is actually used in adverts, for me to be aspirational? My normal life is looked upon as bad and reflected negatively in the media because they want to invoke that desire for aspiration. And that is really where the values all begin, is to set the bar of acceptable behavior. And from there, everything pretty much runs through. And of course, that's why we accept things like money. That's why we have certain shared myths, is because they're all part of fitting in to the portion of society that would look favorably back on you, or at least ignore you politely.
Yeah. that's just a byproduct of the culmination of all the different pursuits we're taught that we need to have, all the different tastes we're taught that we should have.
That's right. What's in fashion, isn't it? What could be a better example than what is in fashion? What are other people wearing that they would approve of if I wore? Similar.
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes, even though in the flat that I'm living in right now, we have a TV, but we haven't got a means to watch television. Whenever my parents were watching TV, they'd always watch ITV because they were always a sucker for Emmerdale and Coronation Street. And
right, sure.
And it's strange how seductive soap operas are.
Yeah, and I do understand that. I mean, of course, when I was at school, we could only watch TV. I think it was a couple of hours a day, and of course, it was always the moment when Neighbours was on. So I actually got into it for a while as well when I was in my youth. I can see how it works. The stories are designed to be one carefully plotted cliffhanger after another, aren't they?
Yeah.
No episode ever ends with some dude just closing the door and going, "All right, see you later." It's always like, "Oh my God, I'm on fire," and then the music kicks in. What do you mean you're my dad and my sister? You know what I mean? It has to be like that, otherwise you wouldn't come back to it. It's so funny that it's not real life because it has to be more interesting than real life in order to actually appeal.
Yeah, I mean, after a while there was one particular storyline in Emmerdale, and it was being drawn out for months and months and months. And eventually I just said to myself, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go up. I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do. I'm not going to watch it right. And I found myself ignoring it for 3 weeks, and then just off the cuff, I watched it, and then finally it brought a conclusion to what I was sick of waiting for.
What, for all those weeks? How funny.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking to myself, I could have wasted all that time just watching stuff, just being coaxed towards something that I know how it's going to unfold, but I'm not entirely sure exactly how. But I could just save my time, do something productive instead, and then come back to it later on. And maybe I might have missed the revelation, maybe not. But I just happened to do it, and she's like, "No, he didn't kill him. I killed him." And it's like, "Yep, I knew that." It's like, how long?
Interesting thing.
Yeah, how long did we have to wait for that?
It's like Lost as well, isn't it? Lost has done very similar things. But it began very, very well. I've not seen any of it actually, but I'm told by almost everybody that it began so well, it was gripping, and really took over culture, didn't it? It really did. It was in everything, and then suddenly, now everyone suddenly started getting the consensus feel that they were just drawing it out, and they're just deliberately doing it. But they have to sort of structure it in a way that in which people who come to it halfway through could sort of pick up the pace, and that does mean actually having a slowly developing storyline. But of course, that's not always a bad thing, a slowly developing storyline. One of the best things I've ever seen is told at a snail's pace. And I'd recommend it to you if you haven't seen it. It's called Carnival, by a guy called, I forgot what his name was now, Daniel something or other. And it's told so slowly. Almost nothing happens in all 2 series, right? Yeah. But so much does. It's an astonishing amount of tension, and the suspense is drawn out to literally every second of it, rather than just as it gets towards the end of an episode. And that's where it can work well. So, but that's some of the effect that I guess that our society has, isn't it? It's the way the programming looks.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just that. It was also because it was ITV. Obviously, every 15 minutes or so, there's commercial break, and the adverts that were on there. I mean, since I've joined the movement, I've immediately become switched on to how and how enraged. I mean,
enraged is probably the word.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time, if I'm around my parents' house, I have to go upstairs, because otherwise, if I'm downstairs, I will start shouting at the television. I will start. I mean, even if
I find myself doing that on Newsnight as well. Newsnight and Question Time. So I don't watch it anymore. I mean, I only watch them over the internet now, and that's of course a wonderful innovation, because I haven't seen an advert for such a long time. You just get iPlayer on your on your TV with, you can do it with an Apple TV or, those general TV things, or the PlayStation has one as well.
Yeah.
Just do that. And then you actually cut out adverts from your life and they're free. So that's a win-win situation.
Nice.
Gravitate towards the